guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale. Today I have a special OG guest back on the channel after a super long hiatus. It is none other than Sushi Pepe. Sushi, how you doing, man?
How you doing, Ash? It's great to be back on. I hope I can provide some insightful commentary today.
I'm sure you can, man. The first video that you did with me, actually, it might have been the second, I don't know, but either way, like the original 2.6 hog cycle guide that we did together has like 500,000 views. It's been one of my most popular videos, and you've been one of my most popular kind of return guests. And for a while there, like I said, you kind of took a little break from CR, I think, and you're back. I'm super excited. Today we're going to play some live ladder matches, and we're also going to analyze the god of 2.6 cycle, Jack. We're going to analyze some of his matches because he can't speak English, and you can kind of maybe add some insight, and more importantly, add a little bit of specific tips to my viewers who might not be at the top of ladder, might be in other trophy ranges. This is being the quintessential kind of free-to-play deck out there. So with all that said, man, why don't you hop into a live ladder match, and while you do, you know, what made you come back, and welcome.
Yeah, so I'm in a game, but yeah, so I just had some time over the summer, and I thought I'd just hop back onto the game again because I didn't have much else to do at the time. So yeah, whenever I have some time, I'll try to play the game.
Nice.
As of now, nothing serious, but yeah, I'm trying to like see where the state of the game is at currently.
Okay.
So yeah, let's just
Focus
go
on
for
this
a
match.
play-by-play.
Ooh.
Yeah, and he's got the cannon cart. It looks like
nice block there.
So, yeah, that card is really scary, and we're gonna talk about that card.
Yeah, we talked a little bit off air, and you were like, cannon cart is the worst.
Yeah, it's really scary, especially for this deck. You don't have a lot of good answers to it. Well, I'll talk about what you can kind of do to deal with cannon cart. So yeah, he's got a NATO as well, but thankfully we've gotten decent amount of damage. I believe that will get once. Okay, not even. Okay.
So yeah. Are you going to stay? It seems like you're pretty aggressive early on here. Like, what do you... Oh, look at this.
Yeah, I'm just going to... He probably has freeze.
Freeze, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just going to log.
Okay. On the log, timing on the freeze, really dumb question, but what do you just generally wait, like, take a little bit of damage, and then log, wait a second or so?
Yeah, I think it's better to do it a bit earlier than I did it, like maybe half a second.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah.
No, but you know, but seriously, you want to wait. Like, I just wait for a few skeletons to start build. I kind of look at like the damage because it kind of increases exponentially on your tower. So as soon as you start seeing, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a trigger.
Yep. All right. So far so good here. You're just kind of not panicking, but going into double elixir time, I feel like you might have a little bit of a disadvantage here, but you're going pretty aggressive.
Yeah. Let's hope I can get one hog hit. I don't think I will though. I know Fireball Log doesn't kill this, but we're gonna Fireball this anyway, just so we can. And I'm gonna hopefully. Okay, he froze that.
Wow.
That's actually okay. It's actually okay.
You're able to cycle all the way back to Log. Like, that's the one good thing about this. This deck is you can always cycle back to your second spell, pretty much.
And I'm definitely gonna Fireball this. You just if they don't have anything that needs fireballing, just get rid of the cannon card because no one likes cannon cards.
No, you hate the cannon card.
Yeah, so you actually didn't go for a graveyard right there, which is, I don't know, kind of interesting.
And this is, I should have mentioned, this is like top 1,000 or very close to ladder, so it's not like it's, you know, low.
Yeah, these guys, you know, he has a max graveyard, like.
Yeah. No, and this is a very popular deck. I think it's the Nicole deck, and I know that Chief Pat has been using this on his channel too to get really high on ladder. So it's definitely a viable deck. And you made it look pretty easy, pretty like, I don't know. You had like a nice flow to your match, if that makes sense. You know, like you used a lot of spells.
The spells are really important. The cannon cart is the one thing that can really throw you out of whack in this deck. So something. That player made a few mistakes. I think there was a few times they could have gone for graveyards that I wouldn't have had a good answer for it. But so with the cannon cart, I want to talk about it really quickly before we move on. Sure. Fireball Log will take out the cannon cart. So if they drop it behind the tower, if they don't have, you know, log bait or fireball bait, just go for it, get rid of it, because a lot of times if you're not careful, if that thing locks onto your tower, no matter what, it's going to do a lot of damage. So just yeah, that's just one way to deal
So
with it.
err on the side of being aggressive because it's tough to deal with.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
for now at least. I'm not sure if it'll get nerfed, but I think it's really strong right now.
I'm going to hop in a match right now too, so
Okay.
you can give me a little live coaching. And as we do, kind of maybe talk a little bit about, because initially when you reached out to me, or when I reached out to you, I forgot who contacted who first, but you said that 2.6 hog cycle is still alive after 2+ years in the game, but it's not played exactly the same. It's not played the same as it once was. So maybe talk a little bit about, as we kind of go into this match. It looks like he has NATO. He does. Talk a little bit about how it's played differently.
Oh my god.
Things have changed, Sushi. Things have changed.
Yeah, Barba tornado. Okay. So
good luck.
Few things. Few observations that I'm just gonna, before we go into the broader sense. So something that I see Jack doing at the top of ladder that I actually would not recommend doing as much is a lot of times you see Jack go for the naked hog off the start, kind of like what you just did.
Yeah.
I would not do that unless you can pretty much say that they don't have a tornado in their deck. Because if they have a tornado, then you get one hog hit. If they don't ice spirit, they can ice spirit and prevent it. But usually you'll get one hog hit, and then they'll have their king tower activated, which is not optimal. So what you can do actually is, if you're not sure if they have NATO, you can ice golem down the center of the lane. So either lane, down the center of it.
Dude,
and
should I switch lanes on this match?
Yeah, so I would. I don't
know what to do here, man.
You can pig push this. At least make him tornado it. So just on the left side, just if you drop a hog, it won't go for the So he'll have to NATO that.
See, like this matchup, I don't even know what the heck I'm gonna do. Like, how am I ever supposed to break through? Sorry to interrupt your thought process.
No, yeah, no problem. Yeah, so this is definitely an unfortunate matchup.
I'm just gonna keep cycling.
I would fireball his barb hut right now.
Okay.
If you have nothing else to play.
Well, I feel like, I don't know, man.
Because that thing spits out a lot of barbs, and you have to be actively dealing with them. Like a lot of times, if you can't deal with it, you have to just drop a must down that lane to deal with the barbs, and it's really, you have to invest a lot of elixir in dealing with it, and that entire time you can't be dropping the hog, right? So anyway, back to what I was saying. If you drop an ice golem down the center of the lane and a hog right behind it, and this is something that I feel like almost no one knows about. Yes, and he was too. Something almost no one knows about is that if you place it like that, it prevents the tornado from pulling the hog to the king tower. So, and because people don't know that, they'll try to tornado it, and then the hog will just stick to your crown tower because the ice golem blocks the hog. And because of that, a lot of times they'll just end up taking their entire tower like that. So it's kind of like a good cheese method. So yeah, that's one thing I see Jack not doing, and that's because usually he knows his opponent doesn't have tornado. And what you'll see is if he knows his opponent has tornado, he'll often do that. So yeah, it's stuff to keep in mind. In terms of, so now I'm going to talk about how this deck is different at different trophy ranges, right? Because that's something really important to keep in mind. So last time I came on, I talked about deck substitutions. So at this point, what I would say is the only substitution I'm actually really comfortable offering is something like a zap instead of a log, and that's, I would say, only if you really don't have the log, or if your log's level 1 and you're really high, so a level 1 log isn't going to cut it. Is the zap. I last year I recommended I recommended Knight Archers. And see, something I've realized at this point is Musketeers is such an integral factor for the DPS of this deck that without it, the deck really falls apart. So yeah, I can't really recommend that you use the archers. That's not to say it's not viable. It's just that in the matchups that are not that require you to have musketeers, you'll be okay. But a lot of matchups will just require you to have the musketeer, and then you'll just not have a winnable matchup. Now, Ash actually did a really good job in that matchup.
I know where I screwed up, though. I know where I screwed up. It was all the I was sending in hog too much on the left lane after he had the barbarian hut. Yeah,
so that's somewhere that I would definitely recommend the fireball cycle, right? It doesn't kill the barb hut, but it does a lot of damage to it. It keeps it in check in a way, and he didn't really have anything that you needed to fireball. So at that point, yeah, I would just not even drop hogs anymore unless he screws up really bad, and just fireball cycle, defend his push fireball cycle, and you might have had a good shot at that.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Do you want to finish your point that you were just making, or do you want to hop into the jack?
Yeah, so that was in terms of substitutions. I would just say go for the zap just real quick. And in terms of how you should be upgrading the cards in your deck, I would say the top priority rare card you should be upgrading is the Musketeer, because you want to make sure that the Musketeer can't get one shot by fireball. So like, if you focus on upgrading one card a bit more than the others, chances are you'll have it at a level that, it won't be under leveled in terms of the normal card levels that other people have. So level up the Musketeer a lot, and level up your Zap a lot if you don't have the log, because you ideally want to be able to one-shot the goblins. So if you have the one level up on those goblins, you'll be able to one-shot them, so you can deal with goblin barrels more easily and stuff like goblin gangs. You'll actually have an advantage over someone using log in that case. Okay. So yeah, those are just some things to keep in mind.
No,
we can hop into the jack replays now.
Yeah, sure. Let's start with the P.E.K.K.A. one.
The P.E.K.K.A. one. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I have it. Yep.
3, 2, 1, play. All right. So yeah, kind of just talk us through what Jack is doing, because I'm sure you'll provide better commentary than I did. Jack is such a machine, by the way. Like, I don't know. It almost does feel that way. Like it's not a human on the other end, because how fast he makes his decisions.
Yeah, it's almost like he's like, okay, I gotta send 5 of these emotes. Say good luck. Okay, so it's funny.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
he goes in opposite lane with a hog. Doesn't support.
Yeah. So he might have known this guy's not running NATO, but in that case, I think it was better to just go for the hog instead of cycling all those cards, his cycle cards that you saw. Does he go for a hog here? I don't think he does. Yeah. So here, yeah, that's at this point he knows the opponent has P.E.K.K.A. So if he went hog there, which is something that I feel like a lot of people who are just kind of just looking at what they have in their deck, they would have been like, okay, I have a Musketeer down. I have an Ice Golem Hog. I should go for the Ice Golem Hog. If you did that, you would just drop a P.E.K.K.A. You would have no elixir, and you would have literally lost your tower right there. Gotcha. So it's really good to have the awareness of what the opponent's running in terms of that. Another thing I want to comment on really fast. This is going really quickly, but notice the last cannon he just placed.
Perfect placement.
Actually it's a really interesting placement that not a lot of people were using a year ago, because it cuts a lot of the stuff that's coming down the lane, while at the same time dealing with stuff that they might drop in the back. So a lot of times what you'll see Jack do is, if there's a graveyard and let's say there's a bowler coming down the lane, he'll put the cannon right where he put it that first time. So then it'll clean up the graveyard, and at the same time it'll clean up the bowler when it's coming down. So it's just really something you have to keep in mind with the deck, is maximizing every card you drop. And really even more so than a year ago, because a year ago, you could really get away with a lot of times just being like, okay, I want to get to my hog. You're in single elixir, right? Your deck's way faster than the opponent usually, and you're just like, okay, I have my 2 cycle cards. I want to get the hog as fast as possible. Try to outcycle. I'm just gonna drop these cycle cards. But sometimes that works. But in this meta, not so much, because you'll drop those 2 cycle cards, you'll hog, and then, let's say they'll drop mini P.E.K.K.A. against your hog, right? And if you don't have those skeletons, like, yeah, you can kite it with an Ice Golem, but then let's say, then they drop Cannon card or something, then you don't have the Ice Golem. So it's a cascading effect of stuff. You have to think so much in advance, and a lot of ways, it's like a game of, it's like in chess, where you have to really think, like, 5 moves in advance of what your opponent's
crazy.
doing.
I can't believe, like, just watching this right now, I can't believe he's able to defend all this. And look at the placement on that Ice Golem. Yeah,
that Ice Golem, like, if he placed it down in the same lane as the push, he would have been screwed, honestly.
Oh my god. And then the skeletons to protect the Musketeer right in front of the King Tower, just like everything's so precise.
Yeah, so that was like a picture perfect, basically. One other thing I want to comment on is, in terms of this matchup in general, so if something that often goes overlooked is like any beatdown deck, like a P.E.K.K.A. or like a P.E.K.K.A. control deck, like you just saw, or like any golem beatdown or giant beatdown. Usually, if they have a minor, it's actually really tough for the 2.6 player to deal with, because, like I said, the Musketeer is such an important part of your cycle and your damage in this deck that if you Musketeer early when they have the minor, and then they just minor on your Musketeer, it's you think you can just be like, okay, I'm just gonna Ice Golem to block the minor, but usually, the minor behind the Musketeer, you'll drop the Ice Golem will just walk away, your Musketeer will die, you'll have no damage left. So what you saw Jack do there is, he waited on his musketeer for a long time. He dropped his cannon. He tried to kite as much as possible to get the most value out of his cannon and his crown tower as much as possible until the opponent gave up. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna monitor the tower, and then he dropped the musketeer. So that was definitely something he did on purpose, because if he dropped the musketeer early instead of investing his elixir into other sorts of DPS in his deck, he would have lost his musketeer. His cycle would have been out of whack, and he would have likely lost the tower. So that's an intricacy that I think it's really good to touch on.
Yeah, I love that. Let's watch another one from Jack here, if you don't mind, against Big Spin, who's one of my other favorite players out there. And yeah, you have that one ready?
Yeah, I have it ready.
Right,
whenever you're ready.
3, 2, 1, play. And before we get into the play-by-play on this one, or as we get into it, please tell me a little bit about using the hog to kind of distract, like using the hog on defense, if that kind of makes sense, and when to do it and when it makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, so that's something that I was talking to Ash before the video. It's something that I feel like a lot of players usually will be like, oh, the hog's for offense, right?
Yeah, Jack does it a lot, though, I feel.
Yeah, he does it a lot. And there's a difference when we say using the hog on defense. There's a difference between dropping, there's a P.E.K.K.A, a battle ram coming down right in front of you, and you just drop a hog right in front of the P.E.K.K.A to tank one shot because you're panicking.
Yeah,
it's not out of panic, is what you'll see. It's definitely not out of panic. He does it very procedurally, and what you'll notice is when he does it, his hog will those are usually the hogs, ironically enough, that get the damage off. So what he'll do is, he does it against P.E.K.K.As a lot. He does it against all sorts of things. So what he'll do is he'll drop the hog in the pig push position, so on the way end, just how he dropped it right now. He'll drop it like that, and then the P.E.K.K.A basically will try to swing for it, but if you do it right, it'll miss the shot, because what happens is when the hog is in the process of jumping over the bridge, it's actually invincible. So the P.E.K.K.A will try to go for the swing, it'll miss, and then if you do it right, the P.E.K.K.A will actually basically walk all the way up to the opponent's own crown tower and come all the way back. So it gives you a lot of time basically to react to the P.E.K.K.A. But at the same time, there's one specific thing I want to talk about: the cannon cart. Sometimes you find yourself in a position where and I'm going to talk about the cannon cart more.
All right, talk about the cannon cart more, but let's finish this match first.
This match? Okay.
Yeah, because we're 45 seconds left, and he hasn't gotten a lot of damage. But the tricky part, the reason I wanted to show this replay is because it's impossible. He has Big Spin is a really good player, and he has 2 hard counter. He has Tombstone and NATO. So,
and the Ice Wizard is kind of tough too.
So I don't know, how is he beating him? I mean, obviously he's going to fireball cycle here, but why is he? How can you know when to fireball cycle with 1,300 damage left on the tower?
Sure. So it all comes down to what deck they're running. So if they're running a Lava Loon deck, you can't actually really afford to fireball cycle unless the tower is 600 HP, something like that.
Yeah.
The primary candidates for someone to go for a fireball cycle, if you're running 2.6, is graveyard decks like you're seeing right now, and P.E.K.K.A control decks, stuff like that. Minor control decks sometimes, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Giant, yes.
Yeah.
All those decks where they're a lot of times forced to put stuff behind the tower, and especially with graveyard decks, because if they keep dropping stuff at the bridge to avoid your fireball value, you can basically shut down. You can get a lot of value with your other troops and kind of push off of that. So they have to drop it in the back a lot of times, which allows you to get that fireball value. So stuff like graveyard decks, like I said, is the times where it's definitely worth it to fireball cycle. What you'll see him do is you really have to take advantage of the fact that your cycle is much faster in single elixir to get at least half a tower.
That's what I was gonna say, is that in that match, basically he didn't start cycling immediately when he found that he had 2 hard counters. He just was really aggressive in single elixir. Then he fireball cycled from 1,300 damage out.
And what you'll notice, and this is something a lot of people who are just getting into 2.6, they'll get frustrated about, is they'll play a hog, right? And then they'll drop all their cycle cards, and they'll drop another hog, and then the opponent has another counter. Well, in this meta, you can expect them to have another counter, okay?
Yeah.
So it's really a lot of times, unless you know exactly what deck they're running, it's not smart to just, like I was saying, it's not smart to just throw all your cycle cards and go for another hog, because one, you just dropped a ton of elixir getting back to that hog. That's probably just like Ice Spirit Skeleton in the back. It's probably not going to get you any value. And then you're going to drop a hog, and then they're going to drop like a mini P.E.K.K.A. Your hog's just going to die. Their mini P.E.K.K.A. is still going to be alive, and you're going to be out of elixir. So it's really not an optimal situation. So yeah, you'll notice, Jack, he makes sure to get value out of every card he plays, even the 1 elixir cards. And something like you guys saw, I don't know if you guys saw that video that Surgical Goblin had with Clash with Ash, where he had the 2.3 miner cycle. Like basically every card in his deck was like a really cheap card, right? But you have to make sure you get value out of all those cards, which is something I really have to stress.
Yeah.
You can't just be dropping cards in the back a lot of the times. Every card placement matters. So yeah.
Okay, so that's really, really solid advice. What about, well, you were going to mention something about Cannon Car, and also if you could just touch on like how to play this deck at different trophy ranges.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, definitely.
Whatever you want.
I'm going to group this, the trophy ranges. Yeah. I'm going to group this into 3 categories.
Okay.
One, basically anything under, I'm not trying to generalize, but basically anything under 4K, I would say. Then I would say, everything up until the top 10,000, and then 10,000 to 1,000, and then I'm not going to talk about the top of ladder because people know how to. If you're at the top of the ladder,
if you're there, you know how to do it. Yeah. Gotcha.
So I'm going to talk about.
I don't think there's too many people who are like, I'm 20 in the world, Sushi. Give me some advice, please.
Yeah, help me out here. Yeah. So so let's talk about that. And if you want, you can go into just put on one of my replays.
Yep. I'm rolling with Jack right now. Might as well. We're on the video.
Okay. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the top trophy range. So anything above the top, in the top 1,000 to 10,000, I would say. So compared to like a year ago, there's the decks, and this is partially because there's so many new cards in the game at this point. The decks in these trophy ranges are a lot less predictable than they were a year ago. So like I was facing people running like Bar Putt Golem. Like people running, I think that's actually like a meta deck, but for a while, that's some people are running. But yeah, not really sure. But really weird stuff, right? And you guys saw Ash ran into Bar Putt Tornado. It's really really unpredictable stuff.
I was sniped, Sushi. I was sniped.
Yeah, you were sniped, man. Yeah, and that's what people often say is like, oh, I was sniped. But no, it's really just like really unpredictable stuff.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to unpredictable stuff, hog decks really suffer from that because usually when people are putting weird cards in their deck, they end up being really bad hog counters. So that trophy range, I would say is really the toughest trophy range for a hog cycle. And something someone was telling me, I don't know if this is true, but Jack apparently, like when he's climbing lower ladder ranges, when stuff is less predictable, he'll run like a more stable deck, like I think he was running Expo for a while and some other stuff like that to get him out of that area, and then he'll go to hog cycle because it's so much more stable in that area. But I would say it's still possible. I was running it. I was able to climb out of it. What you have to do is recognize, these players are not, they're pretty high, but they're not like top 100 players, right? So you really have to take advantage of their mistakes. Basically, like if you guys saw again in the matchup Jack was playing, the guy wasn't playing bar put in the right spot, honestly. He was playing it one tile too far back, so you can push with the hog and get the hog to tower as easy as that. And if they don't, well, then they have to tornado. They're going to be down a lot of elixir like that. So taking advantage of these little things is something that you have to be able to do in that trophy range. For the, let's say, what was the next trophy range from 4K to the top 10,000, right? Yeah, so that trophy range, it's more or less the same as below that, honestly, for this deck, because what you'll encounter is still the decks are going to be pretty unpredictable, pretty much just as unpredictable as they were in that higher trophy range. But like the difference is really that people aren't going to be able to utilize their cards in the best manner possible. Like there's going to be something that like most Golem players know. You don't want to drop Golem like first card of the game, right? Because then you're very susceptible to something like a hog player. But that's something that I see a ton of like Golem players doing, and a ton of like P.E.K.K.A. control players doing, and giant players. They'll just drop that off the bat, and then you can just push with hog. So like taking advantage of sometimes
mistakes
small,
like that,
sometimes small, sometimes big inaccuracies is really the key. And that's how you have to be when I was saying you have to play the deck differently, compared to some things that Jack does, because a lot of times it comes down to the ice golem. I would say is when you're using that ice golem, because at the top of ladder, some people are a lot better. Most people are a lot better at taking advantage of the 2.6 player when they don't have ice golem in cycle. Like as soon as you drop ice golem, they'll drop cannon car opposite lane, and then you won't have a valuable counter to it. Stuff like that. So they'll know how to take advantage of it. But a lot of players in lower trophy ranges, they won't actively pick up on the fact that like something like a 2 elixir card like an ice golem is so important to keeping you alive, right? So at lower trophy ranges, the main advice I would give is something that I pointed out earlier is feel more free to drop the ice golem with the hog. Don't feel like you have to go with naked hogs, because especially like let's say they drop a mini P.E.K.K.A on a naked hog, your hog only gets 1 shot. But if they drop a mini P.E.K.K.A on a hog ice golem, your hog gets 3 shots usually. Mm-hmm. So it's a huge difference. So at lower trophy ranges, that's the big difference I would say that you see Jack doing versus what I think you should be doing. Now, yeah, that basically covers how you should be, I think, playing the deck to a large extent. Something I want to point out is, I don't know if it's just me. I talked to some of some of my friends on CRL teams, and so they were talking about this. They said I was talking about like cannon card versus 2.6. They said like, yeah, it's really tough for 2.6 to deal with cannon card. Especially it was buffed recently, right? So
yeah.
Yeah. So some interactions that I'm not sure a lot of people are aware of yet. If a cannon card's coming down the lane, you have nothing to deal with it except don't drop a musk into it, because cannon card actually 3 shots musk. Your musk will get like 2 shots on it, it'll die. So don't do that. Another thing you should not do is like we were saying, using hog defensively. So let's say their cannon card's about to come down the lane, mm-hmm. and you don't have your ice golem or something, you have a hog. You would have to, and then you would be like, okay, I'm gonna drop the hog to get the cannon card to shoot it. Well, if you pig push it, like I said, the hog's actually invincible for that point of time, and troops won't target it. And because cannon cart retargets so fast, if you try to kite the cannon cart with a pig push like that, the cannon cart will actually ignore the hog and lock onto your tower, and then you won't have any answer to it. So if you have to do that, don't pig push with the hog. Just drop it straight down the lane, because then the cannon cart will be forced to actually target it. So yeah, so the point of this video is just to talk about some intricacies in the 2.6 deck, how you should be playing it differently, and comment on Jack's gameplay. So did we cover that?
I think we covered it, man. I just let you go there because it was so great. So, but thank you for all the advice and tips, and I felt like you did a fantastic job kind of maybe fleshing out some of the, like I said, the habits of Jack, and also how to play it differently, depending on your ladder range. So, dude, Sushi, we have to have you back again, man. Thank you so much for devoting your time and helping us out.
What I wanted to focus on to a large extent is a lot of those small things, because that's really what this deck comes down to. A lot of those really small, intricate details that Jack does and you should be doing when you're using this deck, because that, at the end of the day, almost 9 times out of 10 is the difference between a win or a loss in this deck. Those very intricate plays. Yeah, glad to be back on.
Absolutely, man. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Check out Sushi PayPay's player information and stats in the description below. Thanks to Stats Royale. And huge shout out to Bren Chong, my YouTube partner. Check out his information in the description below as well. Thank you for joining me. And as always, take care, guys.